إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we've arrived at day number 7 in the month of Ramadan 2018, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from all of us our fasting, our standing, our dua, and all of our righteous actions of ibadah done during this month. So yesterday, alhamdulillah, we covered the dua of one of the great prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the most powerful dua made by any of the prophets and messengers recorded in the Quran, and that was the dua of Prophet Ayub. The dua of Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. Yunus ibn Matta, and he called out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the belly of the well, realizing his mistake, realizing that there's no running from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only running to Allah. He called out in the darkness of the belly of the well, وَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. La ilaha illa ant, nothing worthy of worship except you. Subhanaka, glory be to you. Inni kuntu min al-zalimeen, indeed I was from amongst the wrongdoers. I was wrong. All right, and it's just so uplifting, so exhilarating for you to stand in your own discomfort and own your mistakes, especially own your mistake in front of God. Owning your mistake in front of another human being may not be respected, may not be valued, but owning your mistake in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without a doubt, it has value. It has value in the sight of God. All right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Jazakumullah khairah for your dua and your kind words. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. So we've covered 6 dua up to this point. How many people have memorized all 6 up to this point? How many people have memorized all 6 dua up to this point? Anybody memorize all 6? Starting from Prophet Adam to Prophet Yusuf to Prophet Ibrahim to Prophet Ayub, all right, to Prophet Yunus. And now we've arrived today at dua number 7. The person said in English, MashaAllah. In English, MashaAllah. I mean, alhamdulillah, even in English. I'm laughing because I'm amazed that a person would actually memorize the dua in English. All right, usually people kind of give up. They don't know Arabic. They just say, it is what it is. But you got them in English, MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Okay, so today we're going to talk about another prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. We're going to talk about another dua that was mentioned in the Quran. And this dua is by far the most intimate dua that one of the prophets and messengers made. Yesterday we covered the most powerful dua. The most powerful dua made by any prophet in the Quran. And today we're going to cover the most intimate dua that one of the prophets made. Today we're going to talk about the cousin of Prophet Jesus, the cousin of Prophet Jesus, and that was Prophet Zakariyah. Prophet Zakariyah, in English he's known as Zakariyah. Prophet Zakariyah, but he was known in the Arabic language known in the Quran as Zakariyah. All right, he was the maternal cousin of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. Jesus's mother, Maryam, and Zakariyah's mother were sisters. All right? they were sisters. All right? But before I go into the dua, here again, got to give you the backstory. All right? Got to give you the backstory. There are some people, I know that there may be some people listening. Some people may get this lecture afterwards. But I know that there are some people that are struggling. I know people personally who are struggling with the ability to have children. All right? You can ask questions at the end of the lecture, inshallah. I know that there are some people who are struggling to have children. There are some of us, alhamdulillah, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored to have many children. Favored, have many children. And then there are some who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for one reason or another, due to His hikmah, due to His wisdom, has not blessed them with the ability to have children. If you are one of those people who are struggling to have children, I want you to listen to this very closely. If you know that there's someone who has been trying to conceive, trying to procreate with their spouse, and have been unsuccessful up to this point, call them and tell them to tune into this lecture, because I'm concentrating on them in particular. And I know just off the top of my head, at least 3 people right now that I know of personally who are struggling to have children, who want children really bad, and for one reason or another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not blessed them with the ability to have children. All right? So there are some people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for them to never reproduce. As harsh as that may sound, I want you guys to listen to me. There are some people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for them that they never reproduce. They never have any children. All right? And this is due to a wisdom that is far beyond what we can understand. Far beyond what you, as a person who is trying to conceive with your spouse, far beyond what you could understand. We cry, we beg, we, get up at night and pray, begging Allah, wondering what is wrong with us. Why can't we have children? Why can't we reproduce? All right? And it may not even be that there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Right? You're perfect. Nothing wrong with you. SubhanAllah, nothing wrong with you. I want you to get that in your head right now. Stop blaming yourself. Right? We lose a child. Anything that happens to us in our personal lives, we turn in on ourselves and we become real hard with ourselves. Let up off of yourself. Let up off of yourself. Stop beating yourself up and understand that there is a divine wisdom behind the things that are happening to us. And if you just submit to that fact, it will be easier on you. Stop being so hard on yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, listen to this ayah in Surah Ash-Shura, in Surah number 42, ayat 50. Those of you sitting at home in the comfort of your living room, in comfort of your your bedroom, pull out your Quran. We are about to, take a swim in the Quran, right? We are about to take a swim through the Quran, inshallah ta'ala. Pull out your English translations of the Quran, pull out your Arabic mushaf, and follow along with me as we read through these ayats. All right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah number 42, ayat 50. Find the ayat and follow along with me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Lillahi mulku samawati wal ard. Lillahi mulku samawati wal ard. To Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. He leads with that. All right? He leads with that. To Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. Meaning everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard. To Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and on earth. يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ. He creates whatever He wills. يَهَبُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ إِنَاثًا. There's some who He gives only daughters to. Some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives daughters to. Some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives daughters to. يَهَبُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ إِنَاثًا. There's some whom He only gives daughters to. وَيَهَبُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ الذُّكُورَ. And there's some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives boys to. Up until 2 years ago, I was one of them. I only have boys. Only have boys. My oldest is about to be 17, and just work your way down after that. All boys. Up until 2 years ago, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored me with a daughter. Honored me, because to have a daughter is to be honored with that. It is an honor. It is an honor taking care of a daughter. It is an honor of taking care of a child that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use that child one day to bring life into this world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted you, entrusted me, entrusted any man who has a daughter. Allah entrusted you to nurture this girl until she gets to a point where she can reproduce, and Allah will use her womb, use her body to bring life into the girl and into the world. Understand? That is an honor. In pre-Islamic Arab society, it was seen as a badge of shame. It was a shame for a man to have a daughter. It was a shame. They used to bury their daughters alive. Female infanticide. They used to bury their daughters alive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذَا مَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. And when the baby girl who was buried alive will be asked on the day of judgment, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. For what reason were you killed? What reason were you killed? For no other reason other than that she was a female. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَهَبُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ إِنَاثًا. There are some whom Allah only gives daughters to. وَيَهَبُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ الذُّكُورَ. And some whom Allah only gives sons to. There's some who have been blessed with an army. All they have is boys. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوْ يُزَوِّجُهُمْ ذُكْرَانًا وَإِنَاثًا. And there's some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a mixture of boys and girls. Right? Boys and girls. There's some who have been favored, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them boys and has given them girls. Then Allah ends the ayah with saying, وَيَجْعَلُ مَن يَشَاءُ عَقِيمًا إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ قَدِيرٌ. He said, and there are some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves them barren. They have no children. You don't produce anything. And then Allah ends the ayah with, إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ قَدِيرٌ. Allah is all knowledgeable. Don't walk around thinking Allah doesn't hear you. You're getting up at night, you're begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for children. Allah doesn't hear me. Allah doesn't get me. Allah knows what He's doing. You understand? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what He's doing. Innahu alimun qadir. That He is all knowledgeable. He is all knowledgeable. And He is powerful enough to respond. It's not that Allah doesn't hear you. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to have children. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knowledgeable of why He doesn't want you to have children. He knows why. You don't know why. The hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kept hidden from you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows why. And He's powerful enough to make that happen if He wanted it to happen. Qadirun. And so the scholars of tafsir, they say that the human being, every human being falls into one of four categories as it relates to procreation, as it relates to this ayah. There's some men yu'tihi banat. There's some whom Allah only gives them daughters. And that is an honor. Because for every daughter, that daughter is protecting you from a door from the doors of the hellfire. Right? There's 7 gates to the hellfire. And the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has 2 daughters and raises them and teaches them good manners and marries them off, right? Then they will be a shield, a protection from the hellfire. So for every daughter that you have, that is a protection from every gate from the gates of the hellfire. So to have a daughter is an honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's some whom Allah only blesses them with daughters. وَمَن يُعْتِهِ الْبَنِينَ. And there's some who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives them sons. Right? There's some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives them sons. For whatever reason. And there are some, may yu'tihi an-naw'ain, dhukuran wa inathan. And there's some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives them, He gives them a mixture of male and female. He gives them a mixture of male and female. Even one of the sahabiyat, the women of the Sahaba, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, what if a woman only has one daughter? What if only one daughter? He said, even only one daughter. One daughter raises them good, gives them good manners, teach them good manners, and then marries them off. They will be a shield, a protection from the hellfire for them. And then there's some, man mana'ahu hada wa hada. There's some whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevents them from having children, whether male or female. So, some people, every human being falls into one of these categories. One of these categories. Alright? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends the ayah with saying, إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ يعني بمن يستحق كل قسم من هذه الأقسام. That Allah is knowledgeable. He's knowledgeable of who is deserving of any one of these situations. Whether they are deserving of not having any children, they are deserving of having only boys, deserving of only having girls, and those who are favored to have both. Allah is knowledgeable enough to know who deserves what. قَدِيرٌ عَلَى مَن يَشَاءُ مِن تَفَاوُتِ النَّاسِ فِي ذَلِكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power, right? Power over all things. Children, brothers and sisters, can be a blessing. Children can be a blessing. And I'm talking more so for those who don't have any children, looking to have children, looking to reproduce, right? Children can be a blessing, but children can also be a test. Understand, for those of you who don't have children, those of you who are looking forward to having children, understand something. Children can be a blessing, but children can also be a test. You cannot understand how one obtains salvation from the hellfire by having daughters. How? How could you not? How could you not? What is so special about the woman? What is so special about a daughter? It is through the daughter that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings life into the world, not through the son. It is through the woman that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests his name, Al-Muhyi. Manifests his name, Al-Muhyi, the giver of life. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give physical life? Because Allah gives spiritual life as well. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give physical life? He gives physical life through the body, the womb of the mother. Which is why the woman, the mother in Islam has such a high place. The Prophet ﷺ said that if you desire Jannah, then, but salvation for your soul, absolutely. You are assisting God in bringing life into the world by raising daughters, teaching them chastity, teaching them to have self-respect, teaching them to have morals and manners and discipline, and teaching them the value of respecting themselves, teaching them the value of valuing their private area. You have girls who don't value their private area, who give it to anybody. You understand? They give it to anybody. They don't value that. To teach a girl to value her chastity, value her private, because you don't know who Allah is going to bring into this world through you. It could be the next Malcolm X. It could be the next Umar ibn al-Khattab. It could be the next Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to facilitate that individual into this world through your womb, through the womb of your daughter. That is a huge reward. And why did the Prophet ﷺ put so much emphasis on that? It's because of the climate, the social climate that he grew up in, where girls were undervalued, depreciated, and treated as second-class citizens. They were buried alive simply on the basis that they were girls. So to counter that extreme, the Prophet ﷺ, from revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, said that the one who values the girl, then for him is Jannah. They will protect him from the hellfire. Absolutely. How could you not understand that? I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you understanding. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all understanding. I'm not separating myself from you. Perhaps, as Malcolm X said, perhaps we'll meet at another time on a different level of understanding. Perhaps. Maybe you don't get it now. Maybe years from now you'll get it. Perhaps we'll meet on another level of understanding. Children can be a blessing, right? Children can be a blessing, but they can also be a test. Children can be a test of your patience. They can be a test of your faith. They can be a test of your religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Anfal, Surah number 8, ayat 28. Follow me with the ayat. Follow me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَأَوْلَادَكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and know, this is a commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاعْلَمُوا, and have knowledge, know, أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالَكُمْ, that indeed your wealth, وَأَوْلَادَكُمْ, and your children, fitna, is a trial for you. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with him is a magnificent reward. This is in Surah Anfal, Surah number 8, ayat 28. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those of you who don't have children, still wondering why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't blessed you with children, understand the full picture. Don't look at it from 1 pixel or 2 pixels. Get the whole picture first before you start saying, why me? Before you start calling on God, blaming him for oppressing you. God is not oppressing you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not oppressing you. Understand the hikmah, the wisdom, and why Allah chose not to give you the ability to reproduce. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَأَوْلَادَكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ, and know that your wealth and your children are a fitna. They are a trial for you. You understand? You have some children who end up killing their parents. You have children who end up killing their parents. The Hernandez twins, if you remember back in the early 90s, these 2 twin boys killed their parents. Killed their parents, murdered their parents. You have children who on their way out, thank you for mentioning that, on their way out, kill their parents. You have mothers who have died giving birth to their children. Your child was a fitna for you, took your life. You have women who delivered children only to have those children grow up and to disrespect you, have absolutely no respect for you, after you've given them everything. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَأَوْلَادَكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ, know that your wealth and your children are fitna. In the story of Musa and Khidr, follow me, stay with me. In the story of Musa and Khidr, Khidr was a righteous man who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to Musa after he made the very bold and audacious statement that I am the most knowledgeable person on the face of the earth. And while he was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? While he was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't know everything. All right? وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ, and above everyone who has knowledge is one more knowledgeable. Don't ever think yourself to be the most knowledgeable. Surah 8, ayat 28. Surah 8, ayat 28. And the story of Musa and Khidr, right? Musa witnessed Khidr kill a young boy. Musa witnessed Khidr kill a young boy. And he couldn't understand it, right? Khidr had done a number of things. He put a hole in the boat, he drowned the boat, right? And then he killed the boy. And then he built the wall up and he refused to take any compensation for it. All of which Musa could not understand, right? All of which Musa could not understand the wisdom behind it. All of which Musa could not understand the wisdom behind it. All right? So when Khidr killed this young boy, listen to what happened. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَانْطَلَقَا. So Musa and Khidr, they continue on in their journey. فَانْطَلَقَا حَتَّى إِذَا لَقِيَ غُلَامًا. Until they both ran into a group of young boys playing. And there was one young boy that Khidr grabbed the young boy by the hand, took him off to the side, and beheaded him. فَقَتَلَ. The scholars of tafsir mention that Khidr beheaded the young boy. He killed him and then beheaded him. Right, Surah number 18, ayah 74. Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18, ayah 74. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَانْطَلَقَا حَتَّى إِذَا لَقِيَ غُلَامًا فَقَتَلَ. And they proceeded, Musa and Khidr, until they came to a young boy, فَقَتَلَ. And Khidr killed him. So Musa said in astonishment, in amazement, قَالَ لَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً مِنْ غَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. Did you kill a pure soul? A pure soul, بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ, and without, any retribution? Like you did that not because the young boy did something to you. You just killed him for no reason. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْءٍ نُكْرًا. You have done something egregious. You have done something egregious. And then Khidr had to explain to him. Khidr had to explain to him the wisdom behind it. For all of you who do not have children and can't seem to understand the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not blessing you with children, believing that God is oppressing you. I understand your pain, trust me. But at the same token, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not oppressing you. There is a deeper wisdom behind why you have not been able to conceive. A deeper wisdom. So, after Musa rebuked Khidr for what he did, Khidr began to explain to Musa the deeper wisdom that was behind his motive, or behind his actions. He said to Musa, وَأَمَّا الْغُلَامُ فَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا مُؤْمِنَيْنِ فَخَشِينَا أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. He said, as for the young boy that you saw me kill him, فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْنِ. His parents were believers. His parents were believers. فَخَشِينَا أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. And so we feared, meaning divine inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he's going to mention at the end, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ أَمْ أَمْرِي. I didn't do this on my own accord. I didn't do this independent of God's command. I did this on commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 1874. Surah 1874 all the way down to the end. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the command. Right? He said, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I didn't do that on my own accord. I didn't do that, right, independent of God. I did that on commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, وَأَمَّا الْغُلَامَ فَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا مُؤْمِنَيْنِ. As for the young boy you saw me kill, his parents were believers. His parents were believers. فَخَشِينَا. So we were afraid, أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. That he would grow older and he would oppress his parents and turn his parents into disbelievers. He would cause his parents to leave their faith. Your children are a test for you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Your children are a test for you. I already mentioned the ayat to you. So how, let me elaborate a little further. How can your children cause you to leave your religion when you firmly rooted in your religion, firmly rooted in your faith? How can your children cause you to jeopardize your faith? Because we will do anything for our children. Even put ourselves at odds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our children. We'll do anything for our children. We'll make sacrifice. You have women who will leave their man for their children. You have many women who have left relationships solely based upon the fact that the man that they were with, the husband they were with, didn't get along with their children, so they had to make a choice between their husband or their child. And you chose your child. You sacrifice your entire relationship for a child that is eventually going to leave you. And then what you end up doing is you end up committing emotional incest with the child, because now that child becomes your baby boy, right? You begin to function with that child like that child is your husband, sharing all types of information with the child, treating the child like the child is your husband. When you had a husband, but you sacrificed your husband for your child. Don't tell me we don't make sacrifices for our children. We want to put our children in a better situation, right? We want to put our children in a better situation, and we'll go and we'll engage. We'll go and we'll engage in a behavior that is haram simply because under the guise of trying to put our children in a better situation. MashaAllah. You put your children in a better situation, but you put yourself in a worse situation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? You put your children in a better situation, but you put yourself in a worse situation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We make all those type of sacrifices all day, every day for our kids, under the guise of being a good parent, under the guise of taking care of my kids, under the guise of giving my children what I didn't have. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. He said, as for the young man, his parents were believers. His parents were believers. And we fear that he would oppress his parents and turn them into disbelievers. Turn them into disbelievers. Cause you to, we start to justify until you justify your way right out of Islam. Here it is. Man married to the woman trying to tell the woman, fear Allah. Well, he's a boy or she's a girl and these are what boys do. And the husband is like, fear Allah. What do you mean this is what boys do? The man married you, came into your life trying to bring some structure into your life. Yet you're going to challenge the man and let your children have their way, do them. Until the man just can't take it no more. Like, you know what? You married to your kids, man. I'm out. Ma salama. You are divorced, I'm out. Because you married to your kids. You're not married to me. You understand? Real talk. Facts. All the way facts. You married to your kids, man. You married to your kids. You don't want to be married to me. I come in your life trying to bring structure. Trying to help you, organize and put this thing together as a team, as a family. But every time I turn around, you challenging me to give your children some haram, right? Haram. So understand how children can be a fitna. Children can be a fitna. So Khidr explained, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِ ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. He said that I did not do this on my own. This was a commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the explanation of the things that you could not be patient with. All right? So the scholars, they explain this ayat by saying, لَوْ بَقَى كَانَ فِيهِ حَلَاكُهُمَا. If Khidr had allowed the young boy to remain living, to live, he would have destroyed his parents. فَلَيَرْضَى إِمْرِئٌ بِقَضَاءِ اللَّهِ جَلَّ وَعَلَى لِأَنَّ قَضَاءَ اللَّهِ جل وعلا للمؤمن فيما يكره خير له من قضائه فيما يحب. And the scholars Ibn Kathir, listen to these words that should have been written in gold for those of you who don't have children, who are looking to have children and can't understand why Allah has not blessed you with children. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Kathir, he said, if this young boy had to continue living, he would have destroyed his parents. He said, so we learned the lesson from this, that a person should be pleased with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for you. If Allah has chosen for you not to bear children, Allah has chosen for you not to reproduce, at some point in your life you have to find it in yourself to be pleased with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for you. To be pleased with what Allah has become pleased with for you. He said, and when Allah decides a matter for a believer in something that he dislikes, in it is good. When Allah decrees a matter for the believer that he or she dislikes, fihi khayrun, in it is good. And it is better than the things that Allah decrees for him that he does like. The things that Allah decrees for you that you don't like is better for you than the things that Allah decrees for you that you do like. Subhanallah. Do you guys follow me? He said the things that Allah decrees for you in matters that you dislike are better for you than the things that Allah decrees for you that you do like. Because when you get from Allah what you really wanted, right? You're satisfied. Sometimes we don't ask Allah for anything else until we need something else. But when Allah blesses you with something that you don't like, you got to navigate your way through it. You got to struggle through it. You got to toil through it. And then on the other end of that, there's a greater appreciation for God. There's a greater appreciation for yourself and how you struggle through that to get to the other side. You understand? And you'll never get that by constantly getting what you want. You'll never get that. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith, لا يقضي الله للمؤمن قضاء إلا كان خيرا له. That the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never decrees for the believer something except there is good in it. It just takes us a lifetime to understand that. It just takes us a lifetime to understand that. So there are some of our brothers and sisters who are struggling with their faith over not having any children. Understand that the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far beyond what you can fathom. Trust Allah's process. Trust Allah's process. So the dua that we're going to cover today is the dua of one of the great prophets, the cousin of Prophet Jesus, of Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And that is the dua of Prophet Zakariyah. The dua of Prophet Zakariyah. And this is one of the most intimate dua that we can find in the Quran, at least in my opinion. One of the most intimate dua that I found in the Quran, and it exposes the fear and anxiety that many have or have either experienced in the past or are currently experiencing of not having children, right? Zakariyah's fear was to leave this world without any heir to his throne. When you have children, these are the people who are going to inherit what you leave behind. You understand? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, let me capture the conversation. All right? This is a private conversation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let us in on in the Quran. This was a private conversation, right? Usually when people make dua, they don't come out and tell other people what they made dua for. That's a private conversation between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody doesn't need to know that. However, when Zakariyah called on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this was a private conversation, but Allah exposed it to us. You understand? Powerful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed this conversation to us in the Quran. Don't tell me this book is not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallah al-azim, this book is from none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbul Alameen. This was a private conversation between Zakariyah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and yet out of the entire story of Prophet Zakariyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gave us this little bit. Think about the whole entire life, the whole entire story of Prophet Zakariyah. Zakariyah is only mentioned a few times in the Quran, and even the few times is just a reiteration of what was mentioned in the previous ayah. There's no detailed story of Zakariyah in the Quran. However, the little bit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did share with us from the story of Zakariyah was a private conversation that he had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go figure. Out of all of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could share with us of the story of one of his great prophets, he shared a private conversation that was between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says in the Quran, follow me. This is in Surah Maryam, one of the greatest surahs in the Quran. I love this surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I have to recite these ayats. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كافها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله ربي رضيا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, beginning the ayah, Kaf, Ha Ya Ain Sad, Dhikru Rahmati Rabbika Abdahu Zakariyah. And mention the mercy of your Lord on his servant Zakariyah. Allah begins the ayat with recalling the mercy that he had on Zakariyah. That's how he begins the ayat. He begins the surah with talking about the mercy that he had on his servant Zakariyah. So then that only leaves you, the reader, with trying to figure out, well, what happened to Zakariyah that Allah had to begin the surah talking about the mercy he had on his servant. Right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to explain to us the conversation. Allah says, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءٍ خَفِيًّا. And when Zakariyah called on his Lord in private. This was a private conversation. Allah says it in the Quran. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. When he called on his Lord, بِنِدَاءٍ خَفِيًّا, with a private conversation. Gently, just only wanted him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hear that. But Allah is exposing it to us, letting us in on this private conversation. Right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Zakariyah, he said, قَالَ رَبِّي إِنِّي وَهَنَ الْعَظْمُ مِنِّي. Oh my Lord, my bones have grown old. وَهَنَ الْعَظْمُ مِنِّي. My bones are weak. Right? And as you start to get up in age, you can feel your body different. It's different. Right? Your body is different at 40, 45, 50 than it was at 20. He said, Inni wahana al-'azmu minni, that my bones have become old and weak. Washta'ala ar-ra'su shayba, and my hair has become gray. All this gray in my hair. He's calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based upon his condition. He's basically saying, oh God, look at my situation. My bones are weak. My hair is gray. Then he said, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّي شَقِيًّا. And oh my Lord, I have never been before this dissatisfied with the answer to my dua. Meaning, anytime I have ever called on you before this, I have never been dissatisfied. Whether you responded or you didn't respond, I was always totally at peace with your decision. However, this dua here, I need you to hear me. You understand? He said, I've never, وَلَمْ أَكُمْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّي شَقِيًّا. Before this, I have never been displeased with my dua. Meaning whether you've responded or you didn't respond, I was never displeased with my dua, with how you responded to my dua before this. But now, I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me. I need you to see me. My bones are weak. My hair is gray. I need you to hear me. Right? I'm going to get to the other ayah. I want to concentrate on this because the ayats in Surah Maryam detail the conversation a little bit more. All right? Detail the conversation a little bit more. He said, "Inna Rabbi inni wahana al-'azmu minni washta'ala ar-ra'su shayba wa lam akun bi du'a'ika Rabbi shaqiyya." He said, "Oh my Lord, my bones have become weak, my hair has become gray, and I have never been in my dua before unfulfilled." He said, وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. And I fear those who are going to come after me, that they're not going to take this religion serious. وَكَانَتْ إِمْرَأَتِي عَاقِرًا. He's still explaining to Allah his situation, right? My bones are weak. My hair is gray. I've never been dissatisfied with making dua to you before. I fear that the people that come after me, like from my other family members, they're not going to be able to shoulder this responsibility of Tawheed. They're not going to be able to shoulder it. He said, and on top of this, my wife is akira. My wife is barren. Here go that word again, akira. My wife is akira. My wife is barren. She can't have any children. He said, فَهَبَ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا. So give me a child. Give me a kid. He's not just asking for a child because I want to see what another side of me would look like. He's not asking for a child because I want to see what color skin the kid is going to have. I want to see if I mate with this person, is the child going to come out looking better than me? Yeah, we got some huge insecurities when it comes to children. Some of us live vicariously through our children, trying to relive, what we didn't have. Let your children go, man. Let them have their lives. Ibn al-Qayyim, he said, do not force your children to follow in your footsteps, فَإِنَّهُمْ خُلِقُوا لِزَمَانٍ غَيْرَ لِزَمَانِكُمْ. Because they have been created for a time other than the time that you live in. You might be dead and gone by the time your children hit adulthood. Your children weren't created for your time. I was born in the 70s. My first child was born in 2001. You understand? He wasn't created for my time. Why would I force him to be me? Why would I force him to live his life according to how I live my life? He was created for another time. He wasn't created for my time. He said, فَهَبَ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا. Give me a wali. Give me someone who is going to guard and protect this message of Tawheed that has been passed down from prophet to prophet. He didn't want children simply because he wanted children. He wanted someone who was going to inherit this message of La ilaha illallah. You understand? So maybe when we call on Allah and ask Him for children, maybe we need to turn the language. Maybe we need to change and alter the language a little bit and make the language more about Him and His religion than about us and our selfish desires and our needs, right? You understand? He wanted an heir to His throne. Understand? Maybe we need to change the language a little bit and make it more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than about ourselves. So let me get to the dua quickly. He said, يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ وَجَعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. He will inherit me, meaning inherit my message of Tawheed, وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ, and he will inherit from the family of Ya'qub, meaning the message of La ilaha illallah, وَجَعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا, and make him pleasing to me. Make him pleasing. Don't just ask for children, but ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the child pleasing to you. Pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the actual dua that I want to focus on is in another place in the Quran where Zakariyah's story is mentioned, and that is Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah number 21, ayat 89. This is our dua for today, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَزَكَرِيَّا إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ. And remember when Zakariyah called on his Lord and he said, رَبِّي لَا تَذَرَنِي فَرْدًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْوَارِثِينَ. 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 Oh my Lord, do not leave me without an heir. Do not leave me without a child. Don't leave me alone in this world by myself. Don't leave me here by myself. Just me and my wife. I die. No one even knows that I existed. You want someone to inherit that. All right? And this is especially important for those of us who are converts to Islam and we are the only Muslim in our families. Who is going to inherit your shahada after you? If you marry a non-Muslim woman, brother, you marry a non-Muslim woman and you give birth to a child and she raises your child to be a Christian. She raises your child not to have respect for any religion. And that's your fault. Your fault. Who is going to inherit your shahada after you are gone? You are the only Muslim in your family. The only Muslim. And then we turn around and procreate with a non-Muslim woman. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Who's going to inherit? He said, يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ Ya'qub. He will inherit me, meaning my message, and inherit from the family of Ya'qub. This long line, this long list of prophets and messengers. You understand? Who's going to inherit? You marry a Muslim woman who is not even, or you marry a Muslim man in and out of jail, in and out of prison. He ain't going to teach nobody nothing. And you procreate with him child, baby after baby after baby. And then while he's in prison doing his bid, your children are out in the streets, running the streets with Muslim names and don't know a damn thing about Islam. You got to be kidding me, man. Meanwhile, the father's the sheikh in prison, mashallah. He's a sheikh in prison. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah in prison. Meanwhile, your children out here carrying guns, drinking lean, sniffing cocaine and heroin, and doing everything underneath the sun, giving birth to children that will know nothing about Islam. You've literally wiped out. You took your shahada, and then you did something that was counterproductive to your shahada. And so therefore, by the third generation, by your grandchildren, nobody will never even know that you were Muslim. Facts on top of facts. By your third generation, no one will even know that you were Muslim. You understand? No one will even know that you were Muslim. We burying Muslim children every day in the city of Philadelphia, and their parents don't even know that they were Muslim. We got to fight for the body because the parents didn't even know that they were Muslim. Meaning you took your shahada, you had a baby with a non-Muslim woman. The non-Muslim woman didn't even respect you enough to even, carry on the tradition of Islam after your death. We bury you, your non-Muslim baby mother, or your non-Muslim baby daddy, or your non-practicing Islamic baby daddy, right? Knows absolutely nothing about Islam. Therefore, by the third generation, no one even knows that you were Muslim. Go figure. I've seen it. I've seen it many times. By the time your grandchildren are around, and you're like, oh, this is such and such grandchildren, Assalamu alaikum. He's not even Muslim. He don't even recognize Islam. Meanwhile, his grandfather, one of your contemporaries, was Muslim. Took shahada with you. But the dua is, Rabbi la tadharni fardan wa anta khayrul warithin. Rabbi la tadharni fardan wa anta khayrul warithin. Oh my Lord, do not leave me alone. Do not leave me to die alone without any children. وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْوَارِثِينَ, and you are the best of inheritors. You are the best to provide me with a kid that will inherit my message of La ilaha illallah. And so we have to ask ourselves, with all of the people that we running around marrying, are these people contributing to you leaving behind the legacy of your shahada? Are we marrying people that are going to help us bring children into the world that will carry our legacy of the shahada? Many of our children don't even know our shahada story, don't even know how we took shahada, let alone the struggle that you went through to take your shahada, and have the decency to value your struggle and to carry that on to the next generation, to carry that on to their children. All right? So this is the dua that I wanted to cover, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to Zakariyah immediately. Allah says, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ يَحْيَى وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ. Understand? He said, and we responded to him, and we gave him Yahya, John, Yahya, who was the son of Zakariyah. وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ, and we rectified the situation with his wife. Meaning she wasn't able to produce. We fixed that situation. Don't worry about it. That's easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Easy. وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ. We rectified the situation with his wife. We fixed that. Not a problem. All right? So this is especially true as it relates to those of us who are new converts to Islam or old converts to Islam. All right? And we are marrying people who are not going to help us carry on the legacy of La ilaha illallah. Be careful. Choose wisely who you choose to procreate with. Just because you marry somebody does not mean that you have to procreate with them. Just because you marry someone does not mean that you have to get pregnant by them. Just because you marry somebody does not mean that you have to have a child by them, especially if you see within that person that they are not co-parent material. I can marry you and be married to you all day long as it relates to me and you. But as it relates to having a child with you, you are not co-parent material. I would never have a child with you. You are not co-parent material. And this whole idea that, that having kids is from the sunnah, man, don't practice the sunnah without using your intellect. Don't practice the sunnah without using your intellect, man. So that's the dua of Prophet Zakariyah for today. رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْنِي فَرْدًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْوَارِثِينَ. Oh my Lord, do not leave me alone, and you are the best of those to inherit. To give me someone that will inherit my message of La ilaha illallah. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die as a prophet without having a child to carry on his legacy. Every other prophet, he's looking at Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, who two of his children carried on his legacy. He's looking at Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, who he addressed his children right before he died. He said to his children, what are you going to worship after me? Making sure his children are going to carry that legacy on to the next generation. We struggle to take shahada, to find Islam, to find the light, and to just let that go by simply having a child with somebody who is not on the same wavelength as you. If the person is not on the same wavelength as you, then, be careful, be cautious of having children, because you might end up burying your shahada with the child that is born, because that child is not going to carry your legacy. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and accept our dua. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.